Hello, good evening. Welcome to Camnet Television Main News. My name is Jeffrey Siambo. Our top stories in the news tonight: court sentences abductors to life imprisonment. Zambia expecting debt cancellation owed to private creditors. 20 Zambia Army officers die in a road traffic accident. In international news, Sudanese hospital struggles to give basic services. And in sports news, OYDC TEQBALL player describes the Tunisia outing as tough.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. RainGlow, your smart irrigation partner. For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet Television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet Television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Hello again, the news in detail. 20 Zambia Army officers have died in a road traffic accident that occurred in the afternoon on Wednesday, 28 June 2023. In a statement made available to Camnet News, Zambia Army spokesperson Keneo Luyungu says the 20 met their fate while on duty on their way to a military training establishment in Kabwe from Lukanga Army Battle Training Area in Kapiri Mposhi. Keneo Luyungu says among those who have died is Lance Corporal Sakala Isaac, who succumbed to the injuries. He says among the victims who suffered acute injuries, 6 were immediately evacuated to Maina Soko Medical Center for treatment, where Corporal Sakala died. The Keneo says 2 victims are being nursed at Kabwe General Hospital and are scheduled to be evacuated to Maina Soko Medical Center Friday for further treatment. He says the next of kin have been informed of the death as per military procedure. Meanwhile, the Zambia Army Commander Lieutenant General Stalu Dennis Aluwiziu has wished condolences to the families of the late Corporal Sakala. Senior Chief Ananganga Imweko of Lukulu and Mitete has advised government to consider introducing a 24-hour business environment in order to boost the country's economy. And Ananganga Imweko says the recent debt restructuring by the bilateral lenders should lead to a shift in the country's commercial and social activities. He cited the manufacturing sector as one that needs to run non-stop by increasing working hours to enhance productivity. He said this will double the country's production output and increase its export capacity.
The director is inspecting what SG team you have now with this powerful team. That's CDF. PF was giving how much? 1.6?
1.6.
It's like a joke, eh? I'm sure all of you people sitting here, when we mention CDF 1.6, did you see that? It's like a joke, eh?
Young.
Was there really seriousness in the issue? Compared to what, 28.6? You can see the will. Now, the will of UPND and the president and the management of UPND is for the people to see what they can do. They have given us the money. The money is here. Before you even ask for the school, the money you have in the CDF. That is, to me, a game changer. The responsibility is now among the people of Zambia through their district councils and their chiefs. I'm saying chiefs because I've heard the president several times telling our CDF officers that we have also asked the chiefs to monitor you. Standards must also be, in my opinion, I think standards, both Maricolo, Maripatera, more severeza. And that's another level president. We must change the attitude. The Zambian culture of working is degenerated to something very bad. To an extent that sometimes when I start thinking within myself, don't you think that we have too many holidays in this country?
4 days holiday.
Holiday.
Albinism for Change in Africa President Maseka Lumai has underpinned the need to appoint more people with albinism in decision-making positions so that they can contribute to improving their livelihoods. Speaking to Camnet News, Mr. Lumai says persons with albinism, especially those in rural areas, cannot afford basic necessities such as sunscreen, which protects them from skin cancer, as they cannot afford it. He therefore notes that having persons with albinism in decision-making positions will help in pushing for policies that will ensure that rights of persons with albinism are upheld. More in this report.
Persons with albinism in Zambia have risen up, demanding that their right to basic necessities such as sunscreen, which helps in caring for their skin, be treated as a need and not as a want. In an interview with Camnet News, Albinism for Change in Africa President Maseka Lumai notes that to date, many persons with albinism cannot easily access sunscreen, which is essential in fighting skin cancer, as they cannot afford to buy it in quantities that would be enough for daily use, adding that shortages of this commodity are also common.
Persons with albinism face a lot of challenges, especially due to the fact that those people in the rural areas cannot be able to easily access some of these sunscreens. And sometimes when some of these sunscreens do come, you find that they'll come and then, there's a period where they do not have. So there's obviously limited stock in the way, this sunscreen is being distributed. And persons with albinism are usually discriminated, stigmatized, and, that affects their mental health. And that is why it is important that as a community we sensitize our community and our society to ensure that persons with albinism are not discriminated, they are protected, and they are included in policy and society.
Mr. Lumai says it is only when there is adequate representation for persons with albinism on the country's governance space that real change is expected.
We are able to see that there's a lot of political will from the New Dawn administration by the appointment of our very own commissioner, Mr. John Chiti. And obviously we do hope that this is not going to be the end, but the beginning of, some of these, appointments. We do feel that within the community there are a lot of, people that can be able to contribute to the economic, political, and, social development of the country.
He has further encouraged those facing various challenges due to the condition to forge ahead, stating that he is an example of perseverance as he faced all odds and is now pursuing a Bachelor of Law degree at a named university. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Former Special Assistant for Press and Public Relations to former President Edgar Lungu has opted to stay silent in court. This is in a matter Amos Chanda is facing charges of obstructing and using insulting language against Anti-Corruption Commission officers. Mr. Chanda, 50, is charged with 1 count of using insulting language and 1 count of obstruction, while his wife Mebo Nakaundi and his sister-in-law are jointly charged with 1 count of using insulting language and distraction. More in this report.
Former President Edgar Lungu's Special Assistant for Press and Public Relations, Amos Chanda, will know his fate on 29th September 2023 in a matter where he is facing 1 count of using insulting language and 1 count of obstruction. Mr. Chanda's wife, Mebo Nakaundi, and his sister-in-law, Ruth Nakaundi, pleaded not guilty to the charges leveled against them. But when the matter came up before outgoing magistrate Dominic Makalicha, Mr. Chanda informed the court that he shall opt to remain silent. Mr. Chanda, through his lawyer, Timi Munalula, says he will not bring any witnesses and shall instead remain quiet and rely on the evidence presented before the court in order to make progress in the matter. In this matter, Mr. Chanda, 50, was arrested together with his wife, Mebo Nakaundi, 48, and his sister-in-law, Ruthi Nakaundi, 37. Chanda is charged with one count of using insulting language contrary to Section 179 of Chapter 87 of the laws of Zambia and one count of obstruction contrary to Section 63C of the Anti-Corruption Act No. 3 of 2012, while his wife Nakaundi and his sister-in-law are jointly charged with one count of using insulting language and destruction. When the matter came up, the defense indicates that since his client opted to remain silent, it will make submission on July 20, 2023, and the state will respond to the submission on August 4, 2023. In count 1, allegations are that Chanda, on October 27, 2021, in Lusaka, did use insulting language on 3 SCC officers as they were executing their duties, conduct likely to give provocation to the named officers so as to cause them to break the peace or commit an offense. In the second count, and Ms. Nakaundi, on October 27, 2021 in Lusaka, whilst acting together, did use insulting language repeatedly on named officers of the Commission, conduct likely to give provocation to the officers so as to cause them to break the peace or commit an offense. Details in the third count are that the trio, on the same date, did obstruct and delay officers of the Anti-Corruption Commission in the lawful exercise of their duty to search house number 67 in Lusaka's Woodlands area when they stated that the keys to the bedrooms were with another person purported to have traveled out of town when in fact not. Meanwhile, outgoing magistrate Dominic Makalicha has set September 29, 2023 as Judgment Day in the matter. Nelson Zulu for Camnet News, Lusaka.
The Socialist Party has expressed concern over the increasing price of mealie meal in the country. Party National Management Council member Crispin Chinda tells Camden News that in the recent weeks the price of mealie meal has been rising, a situation he said is not suitable for the citizens. Mr. Chinda says the increase in the floor price of maize has greatly affected the cost of the country's staple food. He regrets that the commodity is fetching as high as 250 kwacha.
We're concerned with the escalating prices of mealie meal. Just a week ago, the price of mealie meal was 230. Today, the price of mealie meal is 246, 250. So within the space of 2 weeks, there's an increase of price of mealie meal. So overall, the cost of living has gone up, and our people are complaining on the ground. Zambian people are complaining that what the president say or what the government says is different from what is happening on the ground. They promised a lot of things, and one of the promises was to reduce mealie meal at 50 kwacha. But instead of reducing the mealie meal, we are now buying mealie meal at 250 kwacha. So mealie meal from 50 kwacha has increased 5 times according to what we are promised. So we are very much concerned that these, instead of arresting many people, so let's arrest the price of mealie meal, which is escalating. So we should not be making decisions and creating problems on the decisions that we are making. So it's like the government, by making up a floor price of maize to be 280, they created another problem of consumers. How much consumers will be getting that product, the mealie meal.
Opposition Patriotic Front Chilubi Member of Parliament Mulenga Fube has charged that the ruling United Party for National Development UPND now has no excuse not to fulfill its campaign promises to the Zambian people following the debt restructuring deal of $6.3 billion. In an interview with Camnet News, Mr. Forbes expects that the prices of food and fuel will reduce and that the kwacha will stabilize against the United States dollar. Mr. Forbes says failure to fulfill the promises will give a reason for his party, as other opposition political parties, to decampaign the UPND, as they now have more resources to revamp the economy.
And I think the common man's expectation is lower meal prices, lower, food prices generally, because food also includes breakfast, lunch, and supper as the president promised in the stadium. Then we also expect that the cost of doing business is going to be low. Electricity is going to be low. Fuel is going to be low. And when we look at such, when those things are low, then we are going to reach a stage where all of us, we are going to celebrate. Because what is good for the nation should be good for everybody. And I think if these things are arrested, they go down in terms of pricing. Everybody, I think the rest of our brothers, especially the poorest of the poor, the common man, is going to have a good life. That is the expectation. So we cannot talk in vacuum. When we say this relief, we are talking about a relief which should be packaged in terms of benefiting everybody. I think that's a starting point. It is just going to be rhetoric if we talk about debt relief without a human face, because it is relief for who? It should be relief for the Zambians. It should not just be relief for papers of inflation rate. It should not be relief for the kwacha versus the dollar. It should be the relief for the stomach.
The Zambia Medicines and Medical Supplies Agency, ZAMSA, board chairperson Dr. Anna Chifungula, has warned medical practitioners to desist from pilfering medicines that have been procured by the government. Dr. Chifungula says ZAMSA has received the first 7,000 health center kits from the 42,000 procured at a cost of $28 million United States dollars. She says members of the public who come across any medicines labeled GRZ at any private facility should not hesitate to report the matter in order to stop pilferage. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary Administration, Professor Christopher Simonga, says the distribution of the health kits to all parts of the country will commence on the 30th of June 2023. More in this report.
The continuous shortage of medicines in health facilities will soon be a thing of the past, as 7,000 health center kits out of 42,000 bulk purchases made from India have already arrived in the country and is ready for disbursement effective Friday, 30th of June 2023. A check at the Zambia Medicines and Medical Suppliers Agency ZAMSA warehouse in Lusaka on Thursday found the health kits being offloaded into the warehouse. And the Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary Administration, Professor Christopher Simonga, says the 7,000 health center kits will be distributed to all parts of the country and is optimistic that the current shortage of essential medicines will be a thing of the past.
Distribution of these health center kits commences tomorrow, 30th of June 2023. It is at this point I also request the general public to participate in reporting any suspected theft of these kits and indeed any other essential health commodities. The plan of receiving these kits every after 2 months is an impressive and strategic approach which will guarantee an uninterrupted supply chain, ensuring that the people of Zambia receive the quality health care as close to their homes as possible.
Meanwhile, ZAMSA board chairperson Dr. Anna Chifungula says the government will every 2 months going forward be receiving the health center kits for the next 12 months until all the 42 kits are delivered in the country.
In total now we have received 7,050 kits that have come. And every 2 months we are going to receive another 7,000. Which means that for the next year, our health centers, we praise God, will be catered for.
Meanwhile, all the health center kits have been labeled GRZ, and Dr. Chifungula has appealed to the members of the general public to report any private institution that will be selling medicines labeled GRZ.
Here it says GRZ. Yeah. So when you see a box like this at a private institution, please sound the alarm. All these are labeled GRZ. There is that label at the corner. Maybe it looks too small, but all of them have that kind of label. Too much leakage of these medicines to unauthorized facilities is happening. So please.
And this container is typical of our products. There's no other container like this in the health essential supply chain. So you see this container, please notify us as well. But sometimes people remove the sticker.
The one who went to India together with the whole group, and I witnessed the packing of the kits in India. Even here, I've witnessed. So this shows that our government is waiting.
The medicines have been procured at a cost of $28 million United States dollars, and many Zambians await to see the medicines reach health facilities to reduce on the number of prescriptions being given to patients. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Lusaka High Court Judge Charles Kafunda has sentenced 2 men who admitted to abducting 13 girls in Lusaka's Chalala area last year to life imprisonment. James Walia and Matthew Sikaunga pleaded guilty to all 54 counts. Judge Kafunda, who handed out a 50-year jail sentence for all rape counts in relation to the 11 victims. Justice Kafunda notes that the convicts lack empathy and remorse for the offenses they committed. James Walia and Matthew Sikaunga were facing 54 counts of abduction, rape, aggravated assault, and assault occasioning actual bodily harm. Here's a report.
Public anxiety is over as the long-awaited judgment in the case where 13 girls were abducted by 2 self-confessed convicts in Lusaka's Chalala area between March and October 2022 has been passed. Were treated to a bizarre incident as what began as a missing person incident later culminated in the abduction of 13 girls. James Mulenga, 22, and Matthew Sikaunga, 21, confessed to 54 counts of attempted abduction, rape, abduction, abduction of a child, aggravated assault with intent to steal, assault occasioning actual bodily harm, and assault causing grievous harm. Following their confession to the crime, the Lusaka High Court has since found them guilty. Judge Charles Kafunda sentenced James and Matthews to life imprisonment with hard labor. Judge Kafunda has also handed out a 50-year jail sentence for all rape counts in relation to 11 victims. In their mitigation, on June 22, 2023, the 2 confessed masterminds of the bizarre incident said they committed the evil acts against their victims, who among them were former high school classmates, just for pleasure and out of foolishness, as they did not know that what they termed as ukwangala would turn out to be serious. They pleaded for the court to be lenient in meting out punishment by imposing a rehabilitative sentence, unlike a custodial sentence, as cases of abduction were not common among youths in the early stages of adulthood. During mitigation, the victims explained that their partners deserted them following the abduction and they are finding it hard to maintain cherished relations. In the reports by the psychosocial counselor, they submit that as a result of trauma, the victims feel socially excluded and have been experiencing challenges in their relations. YWCA also concluded that the victims were likely to be affected in their education and career prospects, but Judge Kafunda notes that the convicts lack compassion and remorse for the offenses they committed. In his findings, Judge Kafunda says the convicts well calculated their moves in abducting the victims, making the offense preconceived. Meanwhile, speaking shortly after judgment was passed, many stakeholders advised the citizens to treat gender-based violence cases seriously.
Women, whichever age, they just keep on attacking keep on attacking women. This is unacceptable, and you should know that the law will come after you, and you also get sentencing like the way these two abductors got the sentencing. So take this as a serious warning.
On the legal aspect, this case is also very novel in that we're able to use victim impact statements for the first time. So it's also setting a judicial precedent. So we are happy that justice is served, and we're just hoping that the collaborative efforts that we've been working on together on this team can continue to ensure that the girls receive healing and restorative justice as well.
2 people that are menace to women are behind bars. We are especially elected with the life sentences that have been meted to them, and we hope this is a warning to other young people who think it is a game. The issue of gender-based violence is not a game, it's a serious game.
Among the victims, one was heavily pregnant. 200 days of hostage was the longest, where they suffered physical mental abuse, poor nutrition, forced alcohol abuse, and forced family planning pills. Nelson Zulu for Camnet News, Lusaka.
Government has challenged the Engineering Institute of Zambia to consider going green on their projects. Speaking when he officiated at the ongoing engineering house in Lusaka, Green Economy Minister Collins Nzovu emphasized the need for the country to go green. Mr. Nzovu says engineers must take the lead in ensuring that the principles of cost and timeliness are upheld, especially in these times of climate change. He says government stands ready to support the EIZ in its quest to fight climate change as regards infrastructure development. He further added that adaptation to climate change hugely needs input from engineers. Here's a report.
This is the newly constructed multi-million kwacha state-of-the-art engineering house. It will be the headquarters for the Engineering Institution of Zambia and will also rent out office space to other institutions. This building is a symbol of the institution's commitment to reshaping the profession that will stand the test of time in playing a crucial role in the economic development of the country. Speaking at the commissioning of the building, Green Economy Minister Collins Nzovu challenged the Engineering Institution of Zambia to consider going green in their projects. Mr. Nzovu emphasized the need for the country to adapt to climate change.
Climate change is here. It's unprecedented flooding. You witnessed unprecedented flooding in the southern region that led to a lot of infrastructure damage. A lot of dams were overtopped and damaged. What's our response to these things? I was going to tell you why the PS is here and a strong team from the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment. It's because we are looking for solutions.
And speaking at the same event, Lusaka City Mayor Chilando Chitangala appealed to the engineering professionals to find a solution to the flooding problems that the city is faced with.
One of the biggest challenges, as everybody would know, being faced by the city of Lusaka is the seasonal flooding due to poor drainage infrastructure. Effects of climate change may make our cities unlivable or have such highlighted risks that will reduce their attractiveness for investors. It is therefore critically important that we work together and urgently develop disaster risk management strategies to build city resilient frameworks and climate adaptation plans. There is no doubt that much is still needed to be done to make our city better.
And the Engineering Institution of Zambia, EIZ President Abel Ngandu, said the engineering house is a landmark for the city of Lusaka. Engineer Ngandu says the building stands as a powerful symbol of what engineering is all about. He says the building is environmentally friendly.
This project started with a vision to build an all-inclusive architectural phenomenon, a building which expresses and defines who engineering professionals are. A building which in 100 years from today will remain special and will serve many members and who will make tremendous breakthroughs in the engineering industry. Our new head office is an environmentally friendly building, and one of the unique features of this building is that it has an incredible auditorium, a rooftop that has a great view, and an elevated car parking area, among other features.
Reporting for Camnet TV News, my name is Marco Kwakozi in Lusaka.
We'd like to apologize for earlier stating that 20 Zambia Army officers had died. However, the facts are that one Zambia Army officer has died instead of 20. We apologize for that misrepresentation of facts. This is Camnet Television Main News. We take our first break. Join us for more news after the break.
You know I can take her a break.
Yes, my dear.
I was thinking of getting you a Bugatti on your birthday.
Really?
I'm quiet. My name is Yana.
Don't worry, man. That's why there is insurance.
Insurance?
You heard me.
Not just any kind of insurance, but Savenda General Insurance, a company that offers superior customer service, highly professional and dedicated staff. We are not just any insurance company, but an insurance company that actually pays our claims. We cover, among others, fire, marine, aviation, engineering, agriculture, motor vehicle, and miscellaneous insurance. So, live life to the full, knowing that Savenda General Insurance has got you covered. Savenda General Insurance. Insurance excellence.
On Monday, 3rd July 2023, on National Matters, join Pastor Moses Chiluba with his guests, Mr. Brebda Changala, political activist.
We are not swimming ashore. If we are not careful, we might sink.
And Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba.
So it's a serious matter of worry.
As they discuss concerns of human rights in Zambia.
Invite others to participate through phoning on Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, and text messages. Make a date with us. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
The FARS 2022-2023 season is over, and the 2023-2024 season is around the corner. Camnet Stars Football Club, popularly known as the local national team, is looking for young talented football players from across Zambia, aged between 16 and 23 years old. Camnet soccer trials will be held on the 30th of June and the 1st of July 2023 in Lusaka at 09 hours. The venue is Kabulonga Boys Secondary School grounds. Your skills could earn you a place in the world of soccer greats in Zambia and the world. Camnet Stars Football Club, the local national team, is a team born for greatness with visionary players. Let us join hands and contribute to high levels of Zambian football standards. Don't miss these trials. The future of Zambian soccer is dependent on you. Make a date with us. Remember, you are born for greatness. See you there.
Welcome back. We'll continue with Camnet Television News. Zambia is set to set up its maiden liquefied petroleum gas LPG power plant, which will generate up to 100 megawatts of firm power. The power plant will be developed through a joint venture company between Tanzania's Taifa Gas Limited and the Zambian consortium Delta Marimba Limited. The US $100 million investment was announced simultaneously in Tanzania and Zambia by Taifa Group Chairman Mr. Rostam Aziz and Delta Marimba's representative Mr. Padmo Muleya, respectively. Mr. Muleya revealed that the power plant will be set up in northern Zambia, a strategic location from a gas logistics and supply perspective, which also answers to the need of the geographical diversification of Zambia's power generating assets. The LPG burns a lot cleaner than other thermal energy sources and releases much less carbon dioxide in comparison to diesel and coal, the other fuels for thermal power generation currently used in Zambia. And Mr. Rostam Aziz credited Zambia's favorable investment climate and the government's policies for his company's decision to invest in the Zambian power sector. This is the first major investment announced following Zambia's $6.3 billion debt restructuring agreement under the G20 Common Framework, an achievement hailed by both Mr. Aziz and Mr. Mulea as very progressive and a precursor of many large investments to flow into the Zambian economy. Commenting on the development, Zambia's Minister of Energy, Peter Kapala, said it is the policy of the UPND government to shift the focus of the energy sector to alternative ways of producing power and have set ambitious targets for improving the country's energy mix and reducing the vulnerability to climate change. National Restoration Party Deputy Secretary General Martin Mulenga says the acquisition of a debt restructuring deal by President Hakainde Hichilema's administration will aid national development. Mr. Mulenga says opposition political party leaders need to be positive as opposed to criticizing for the sake of disapproving of everything the government is doing. He says government has demonstrated commitment to grow the economy and that debt restructuring is the beginning of the process of reviving the local economy.
Everyone else is happy in this country that we have an opportunity that our debt is being restructured. And we know that our lenders now will come and sit with us in a roundtable discussion to see how they can be treated. And this will bring down a lot of things into perspective. We'll see that this economy now will boom because now we've got investor confidence. We have a lot of money now that we're going to save as a nation, given a period in which we are not going to be paying. A moratorium has been given. And also at the same time, this government now will plow the resources that we are going to mobilize locally and push it into sectors that will help us as a nation. And this is what this country needed. And in this vein, we need to applaud the New Dawn government for having attained what our former colleagues tried to do in many years. But this time around, in less than 2 years, we've seen us attain this. It's a very good thing for the nation and we are happy about it.
Zambia and Tanzania have resolved to partner with China in order to commercialize the Tazara Railway. Minister of Transport and Logistics Frank Tayali disclosed in Lusaka Thursday when the Chinese ambassador to Zambia, Mr. Du Jianhu, made a courtesy call to the minister. Mr. Tayali said Zambia and Tanzania have had successful meetings and are more resolved to see the commercialization of the railway company with full participation of China. Zambia and Tanzania are currently working on the formalization of the revitalization program of the Tazara. He says the only escape plan for Tazara is a move by the two governments to engage with the Chinese partners. And in response, Ambassador Du expressed gratitude that the two governments of Tanzania and Zambia are fully committed to the commercialization of the railway company and called for the speeding up of the process. Government, through the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services, has flagged off the distribution of farming inputs of the wetland cropping component under the Food Security Pack for the 2023-2024 farming season in Chibombo District. Government has this farming season targeted to distribute farming inputs to 1,800 vulnerable households in the wetlands cropping component under the Food Security Pack. Speaking when he graced the event, Central Province Minister Credo Nanjua said that the Food Security Pack was meant to support the poor and vulnerable households. Mr. Nanjua said that the New Dawn government remains committed to uplifting the living standards of the people, particularly the poor and vulnerable households. Here's a report.
In a bid to contribute to poverty reduction and improve quality of life of citizens, the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services provides and facilitates the provision of equitable social protection services to communities. This is done to contribute to sustainable human development. As part of the social protection services, the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services has for some time now been giving farming inputs to poor and vulnerable households. Yet again, Central Province Minister Credo Nanjua flagged off the distribution of farming inputs and echoed government's commitment in improving livelihoods.
Today is a special day as we are here in Chibombo district of Central Province to officiate at this flag off and distribution of 2023 farming inputs under the wetlands cropping component of the Food Security Park program. This marks the commencement of the distribution of farming inputs to identify poor and vulnerable but viable farmer households. The new Dawn government, led by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, remains committed to uplifting the living standards of our people, particularly the poor and vulnerable households.
And Chiwambo District Commissioner had this to say.
The wetlands cropping component of the Food Security Park program is aimed at promoting food security and at house level in order to reduce poverty and enhance household nutrition. The wetland cropping component total caseload for Central Province is 1,800 beneficiaries covering Kapili, Luano, and Selenje districts.
Farmers have appreciated government through the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services.
Newachitanshi torumba government yaloyo yanyo alina new dawn. Iyo yatuletera ma programs alimbuli haya. Yatuchafurisha ku community development idolanganya pa food input support programs yaloyo yatuchafurisha suba namayo mapeshi kutoka kuchite muno mu community ndabonenga atuchera kwinda kutoka kwa tamunombo ntoboneka mapeshi achera twakatwamba kukala kabo tumumushi tutokwanisha kulima akulisha abana pamanganda itotuchafwa.
The provincial minister also took time to tour the stands to simply appreciate the exhibitions. Helen Witty reporting from Chimombo, Central Province.
Secretary to the Treasury Felix Nkulukusa says Zambia is expecting a cancellation of its debt owed to the private sector. Speaking during the Joint Government and Economics Association of Zambia EAZ Forum on Debt Restructuring and IMF program in Lusaka Thursday, Mr. Nkulukusa says the Zambian government has asked the private creditors to write off some of its debt in an announcement to be made next week. He says the only way that Zambia will be able to pay back its debt owed to the private sector is either by haircuts or an extension of the maturity period, as is the case with the bilateral creditors. Meanwhile, Finance and National Planning Minister Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane says government is in the process of executing a memorandum of understanding with the Official Creditors Committee, which will outline the terms of the debt treatment. More in this report.
Since the announcement that Zambia had clinched a deal with the bilateral creditors to have $6.3 billion United States dollars of its debt restructured, the debt restructuring process has raised more questions on its importance and how it will benefit the Zambian economy. Secretary to the Treasury Felix Nkulukusa, who made a presentation at the Joint Government and Economics Association of Zambia EAZ Forum on Debt Restructuring and the IMF program, has labored to explain the importance of the debt restructuring process and what it means for the Zambian people.
Because we are not paying, it's not that we are better off. That was sitting on our books. And one day, someone was going to ask for that money. And if they asked for that money today, it meant that today we should release the $4.6 billion. And if we fail, it means that everyone stops lending it to us because they cannot lend into arrears. It means what our colleagues in Zimbabwe went through just a few years ago would go through the same route. And up to now, we know that Zimbabwe's currency cannot even perform.
The Secretary to the Treasury also says Zambia is expecting a haircut from the private creditors on its debt in an announcement to be made next week.
And that, I think, was even asked in Parliament. What is so good about the deal? Because it will make us pay. Because we are not paying, we are accumulating arrears, 4.6 billion. And from December 2022, we didn't have any standstill clause. The only reason each of our creditors did not come to pounce on us was because they believed that we were on the right track and we were doing the right thing and there was no need to punish us. But any one of them could have come and pounced on us.
And the Finance Minister, Dr. Situmbe Komsokotwane, who spoke at the same forum, says Zambian government is now expecting to sign an MOU with the bilateral creditors, which will outline the much expected terms of the debt treatment.
We have had this hump. Most of this debt was supposed to be paid in the next 4 or 5 years, and it was impossible. By now, we'll be paying something like $2.5 billion every year in debt service, which we don't have. That is just for the official creditors, I believe. So, yes, part of the answer is to reschedule, of course with grace period. But on top of that also, interest rates will be lower than before. The effect of rescheduling and low interest rates means that, in fact, the value of the debt goes down by roughly about 40%.
And the Economics Association of Zambia is optimistic that debt restructuring will lead to Zambia's economic recovery.
PMRC, Zika, please, let's utilize these so that we can have a concerted approach towards enhancing our fortunes to develop this country.
Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
This is Camnet Television Main News. We'll take a second break. Join us for international sports news after the break.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. RenGlow, your smart irrigation partner.
On Monday, 3rd July 2023, on National Matters, join Pastor Moses Chiluba with his guests, Mr. Brebda Changala, political activist.
We are not swimming ashore. If we are not careful, we might sink.
And Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba.
So it's a serious matter of worry.
As they discuss concerns of human rights in Zambia.
Invite others to participate through phoning on Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp and text messages. Make a date with us. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back. We now have a roundup of international news.
The controversial plan to deport migrants who arrived clandestinely in the UK to Rwanda was declared unlawful on Thursday by the British Court of Appeal due to safety concerns, much to the dismay of the government. The court explained that Rwanda cannot currently be considered safe for asylum seekers as they may be forced to return to their homeland, where they were subject to inhumane treatment.
The deficiencies in the asylum system in Rwanda are such that there are substantial grounds for believing that there is a real risk that persons sent to Rwanda will be returned to their home countries where they faced persecution or other inhumane treatment when in fact they have a good claim for asylum. In that sense, Rwanda is not a safe third country.
British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said he fundamentally disagreed with the decision and announced that his government will seek permission to refer the matter to the Supreme Court. Sunak's government has made curbing illegal immigration one of its top priorities. Early June, Mr. Sunak had met with crew members of the border agency in Dover, renewing his fervent will to impede illegal immigration.
Germany, which has deployed some 1,000 soldiers in Mali, is already withdrawing them and aims to wind up by May 2024. With the UN peacekeeping mission set to conclude on June 30, German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius has stated that his nation wants to remove its troops from Mali more quickly while maintaining order. The troops were mostly stationed near the northern town of Gao, where their main task is to gather reconnaissance for the UN peacekeeping mission, MINUSMA. The peacekeeping operation was the most expensive mission on the UN's books, costing $1.2 billion per year, now appears to set to wind down, plunging Mali, a country struggling with jihadist attacks, into the unknown. As recently as June, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has deemed the continued presence of MINUSMA invaluable, despite the high costs, highlighting regional fears of an expansion of extremist groups in the event of a withdrawal. The Inyala Turkish Sudanese Teaching Hospital continues to provide medical services despite the ongoing clashes in the country. However, the hospital, which opened in 2014, is struggling to provide basic services to all its patients. The number of the wounded who are received throughout the day ranges between 10 to 30. We receive cases from the hospital gates until they reach the operations. We are appealing to the world now that we're in great need of blood and blood donation. We need a lot of daily disposables, and the number of patients we're receiving is a lot. Since fighting erupted in mid-April, over 3,000 people have been killed, the country's health ministry said, while about 2.5 million people have been displaced according to the UN.
It's now time for sports news. In our sports news, a TEQBALL player from OYDC TEQBALL club, Natasha Nanyangwe, has described the recent participation at the 2023 African Beach Games in Tunisia as tough. Nanyangwe, who is among other two TEQBALL players from the OYDC TEQBALL club who were called to the national team to represent Zambia at the prestigious second edition of the Beach Games, says she and others tried their level best to secure a medal but could not. She says despite Zambia being the first time to participate in the TEQBALL Beach Games, players learn skills that they will put to good use for future competitions. And team coach Catherine Indashi says then 3 players competed in the singles, mixed doubles and doubles, stating that in the singles and mixed doubles, the players were out in the quarterfinals, while in the doubles, the players came out in the first group. She says now that the team is back home, focus will be more on training and preparations for upcoming games. To end Camnet television menus, the headlines once again. Court sentences abductors to life imprisonment. Zambia expecting debt cancellation owed to private creditors. 1 Zambia Army officer dies in a road traffic accident. In international news, Sudanese hospital struggles to give basic services. And in sports news, OYDC TEQBALL player describes Tunisia outing as tough. Our Camnet verse of the day is coming from 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 9. The Lord is not slow in keeping his promise, as some understand slowness. Instead, he is patient with you, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance. Thank you so much for watching Camnet Television News. I'm Jeffrey Ziambo. Bye-bye.